I'm Susan Lewis from WRTI. I'm here with pianist Maria Corley to talk about her album Soulscapes, a beautiful collection of music by African American women. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's so great to see you over Zoom. You're Zooming from Lancaster.
Yes,
Well, I know you were born in Jamaica and then raised in Canada. Is that right?
yes, correct.
And then,
Although I've been here most of my life at this point, but yeah, my formative years were in Western Canada.
and then you went to university in Canada, but then also went to Juilliard.
Right. Yes.
So today, you are a pianist, a composer, an educator. Um, you are an actor, a poet. You've written two novels. You contribute to Broad Street Review and have blogged for the Huffington Post. And have you written short stories and poems? You're clearly a storyteller. This album, Soulscapes, is very beautiful. And
Thank you.
how did it come to be?
Well, my first recording was of Etudes by Leslie Adams. He's a very well-known African American, mainly art song composer, although he's best known for his art songs. He's written a wide range of pieces for almost every instrument, I think, and piano and orchestral works that are still done by the Cleveland Orchestra and have been commissioned all over the world. Then after that, I thought, well, I'd like to do something else to sort of follow that up. And that was when the idea of doing something that was just women came to me. Became aware of the Florence Price Sonata, which is a major, major, major work. At the Weil Hall concert, there was a piece for cello, piano, and voice called Song of the Seasons by Valerie Capers. So I asked her if she had any pieces for piano. And then after that, there was a collection edited by Helen Walker Hill, published by Hildegard, which is 100 years of African American now what's the exact name? Anyway, it's Black female composers, 100 years of them, ending in 1990. And so I bought that collection and chose some pieces that I thought would contrast and complement, and that was Soulscapes.
Maybe we should talk about them, go through them a little bit. Uh,
Okay.
you begin with uh, Mother's Sacrifice,
Hmm.
L.Viola Kinney.
Yes. And that piece is her only extant composition. She got married and just didn't compose anymore. But she's one of the earlier examples of pieces. I mean, I think that piece was published soon after the turn of the 20th century, and was she won a competition or placed in a competition for that piece. But after that, there's nothing else from her. So
It's really amazing. I was noticing that I guess there are one, two, three, four, five, six, seven different composers, and
mhm.
many of these women were or are teachers.
Yes.
And I gather that some of the pieces they wrote were for students.
Hmm.
And is that right?
I mean, I think some of them. I mean, as far as, the Florence Price Sonata, I mean, that is a
Right.
major, major, very, very advanced piece of music. And she entered it in a competition, the Rodman Wanamaker competition, and she was one of the winners. And it was in 1932, I believe. And this was an unusual feat for a Black woman at that time. And she was also the first Black woman to have one of her pieces performed by a major orchestra, because her symphony, also in the same key of E minor, was another winner. But otherwise than that, like the capers are, yeah, clearly meant for students. They're not overly difficult. Faces, portraits in jazz, and she's imitating the styles of different really famous jazz composers and musicians.
They recall different jazz composers or different locations in the
Yeah.
phrasing or the rhythm.
Hmm.
They're really, really fun to listen to. They make
Yeah.
you smile.
Yes, definitely, definitely, yeah, and just miniatures. I think her intention, not having asked her what her intention was, but it really seems like just a really quick and easy way to acquaint a younger person or someone who's not as familiar, or just make someone, as you say, make you smile, just recalling the style of whoever, whether it's Ellington or Satchmo or Miles Davis. She really covers the gamut up to Coltrane. So
So
yeah,
so you start with with Mother's Sacrifice, which is a kind of reflective piece.
yes.
The Florence Price is toward the second half of the album.
Mhm.
In between, you have these jazz portraits, portraits for jazz piano, A Little Whimsy by Dorothy Rudd Moore,
Mhm.
Before Be a Slave by Undine Smith Moore. How did you shape this album? Like, what story are you trying to tell by the way in which you put this together?
Well, I always try to have a variety of styles. So, for example, the Undine Smith Moore is very dissonant. Before I'd Be a Slave uh, recalls "Oh Freedom," the Negro Spiritual. However, hers was originally written for dance, and you can hear. I mean, she has a lot of program notes in it, in the sense of programmatic content. So, it's this tug of war, and you hear people um, basically just losing hope, and then this upward aspirational feeling of hope at the end. So I wanted to make sure that I included things that were more traditional, romantic, inspired, or whatever, and then a couple nods to jazz, because Troubled Water, which is one of the more famous pieces in the canon of music by African Americans, Margaret Bonds masterfully combines jazz and classical idioms in that piece. And then, as I said, this extremely dissonant one, there are spirituals other than Troubled Water, which is a Wade in the Water inspired. Zenobia Powell Perry's homage is based on I've Been Buked. They were all things that appealed to me in particular. And some of these composers like Undine Smith Moore are also, iconic in, if you know, Black American music. She was very well known as a composer of choral works, but she was an icon of as an educator as well, as you mentioned. And Dorothy Rudmore is, just a fabulous and very important female composer and composer of any kind. My hope in doing these sorts of things is that, it inspires some curiosity, inspires people to go further and say, oh, wow, that's a wonderful piece. Not that it should be surprising that there were wonderful pieces by Black women, but, they don't get heard, and people have had a sort of a chauvinism about who can actually write good music, or who can write good classical music, at least. So the different moods, the different genres contrasting. And forgive me, I don't know if you can hear that. My neighbors have been doing construction since November, I swear, and it's on and off, and I never know when it's going to happen next.
Very muted, and
Okay,
I've had
good.
I've had my dog barking during an interview as well.
Yeah, and my children, are present as well. I don't live in a mansion, so there once in a while you'll hear a noise. But anyway, okay,
How old
going on.
are the kids?
Well, they're not young. My daughter is 23, my son is 21. But we're all ensconced here, so it's I can't ask people not to live.
Fine, totally fine. So what? So you're saying that when you put this album together,
Mhm.
a lot of the choices were driven by uh, showcasing people, composers
Mm.
that
Composers and styles, yes, and different approaches, whether it was more romantic, jazzier, or that very dissonant piece by Undine Smith Moore. Yeah,
right. That's Before I'd Be a Slave, right? And that came
exactly.
right after A Little Whimsy by Dorothy Rudmore. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was looking for the contrast. I mean, they're both sort of more, neither one is like romantic sounding. So, I do try to create it as if it were kind of a recital program. If you were going to sit and listen to it in one sitting, that it would sort of make sense.
did you have any surprises or learn things as you were doing this album?
Definitely. I mean, I will say that, I grew up in Western Canada, as mentioned, and there was no emphasis at all on music by Black composers growing up. I mean, Canadian composers, understandably. When I came here, I was already at master's level at Juilliard. My teacher was Hungarian, George Sándor, and that wasn't his emphasis either. I was like trying to learn. There's so much of the canon. I mean, I'd never heard of Zenobia Powell Perry, for example. Well, I mean, L.Viola wasn't well known. And the only reason I knew about Valerie Capers was because I met her. Most of these pieces were news to me, as far as having heard them before. And the Price Sonata, which actually hasn't been recorded all that much, considering, that it's such a big and appealing work of music, so anyway, yeah, I learned a lot of, and even the ones that I didn't choose to do in the Helen Walker Hill anthology, these composers' names, a number of them I wasn't familiar with either. So yeah, definitely.
So now this album came out in 2006, is that right?
Yes, correct.
So is this just kind of a sample of great treasure trove of things that are out there?
Yes, I would say so. And in fact, pending the funding, I'm working on and have been able to do, because I haven't been performing other things. I'm working on sort of a Soulscapes too. There are a number of British composers of West Indian descent, like Eleanor Alberga, who's a fabulous pianist and has a number of works. Um, Erilyn Wallen is another one, and these people are very, very well known in Great Britain. Shirley Thompson, I don't know if we're related or not, but because that's my maiden name is Thompson, or and she is very, very, very well known and respected in Great Britain, and hasn't done a lot of piano music, but I got some of her pieces. So um, and I'm a composer myself. I wrote a few pieces that I'm planning to record for this as well. I mean, I've already put them on YouTube, but um,
What are they?
I have one called Lucid Dreaming and one called Willful Ignorance. I won't say what that one's about, but you can let your imagination run wild. And so yeah, I recorded them, just videos, and put them on YouTube so far, and I'm hoping to put them on the recording. Also revisiting some pieces that I wrote when I was a teenager, like 14 or 15 years old, that were in a competition in when I was in Canada, and won a prize. So I'm debating whether I'll put all four of them. They're really short. But anyway, yeah, those are the ones. I mean, I write mainly, or have composed mainly, art songs. And as I said, my thinking of myself as a composer is a very recent thing. So I've written for strings and piano, or a small string quartet. I wrote an opera that was performed as part of the Cameron Opera Coalition's Tales from a Safe Distance, which actually was an award-winning presentation online. Was online from October till December of 2020.
You do so many artistic things.
Hmm.
You play the piano, and and make compose and do arrangements, and you write with words. You write short stories, and you blog, and I guess do personal essay type work.
Yeah.
Do those different art forms kind of feed off of each other?
Yes, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said you're a storyteller. I mean, to me, it all has a narrative. Like, even if I can't put into words what the piece exactly is telling you, an abstract piece of music, to me, it has to have an arc of some sort, that makes sense to me.
With this album, for example, is there
Mhm.
any message or anything you'd hope that people would be thinking about as they're listening to this, or after they've finished listening to it? What is there a message to this
What's
album?
our through line? Um, I mean, I think the act of making a recording of piano music by Black women is in itself a bit of a statement. Here we are here, and we are excellent. And, perhaps you didn't assume that, but, here's some evidence. That to me is enough of a message. Growing up in Western Canada, we had these music festivals where you would compete, and people would know who you were, and you'd know who they were, and all that sort of stuff. Strangely enough, even though I was in such a small minority, I didn't necessarily feel that I was representing a whole bunch of people. I felt like, if I did my job of doing my best, then I was representing, my own achievements. But while saying that, we got called the N-word in school, and so it wasn't like I was in some oblivious world where I didn't realize there were racists. And I know that there were these perceptions, but when I was at Juilliard for a number of years, I was the only Black pianist in the whole school. And apparently Black female pianists have been very rare since then. And so, in trying not to feel like, there's more weight on me as a person because, you're representing you know, you visually the only one, and is she really good enough to be here, and all these sorts of things that one can carry. I mean, that was something that I had to learn to just put aside, because, you know, all that can do is make it harder. If there is a narrative, it's not real. It's that, you know, we have a variety of things that we are able to do, and, you know, here we are doing it. And you know, listen.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you.
Take care.
And you too, Susan.